Merhaba, hoş geldiniz. Ben Taner Öğütoğlu. Ee, Bugünkü tadımla alakalı böyle genel bir bilgi vermek isterim size. Ve tercihen İngilizce konuşayım, İngilizce konuşmaya çalışayım çünkü yabancı konumuz da anlar. Zaten sizler de biliyorsunuz, bilmeyen de kulaktan dinliyor. Welcome everyone. Uh, Let me give you brief information about the tasting today. Uh, As you know, Sommeliers''selection 2018 is the second event that we are doing in terms of Sommeliers''selection. The first one was last February. This year, it was a bigger event than the last year, as we can estimate and expect. There are 193 wines in the walk-around tasting. And our master sommeliers will taste 117 wines in both tastes. They tasted around 60 wines today. They will taste the next 60 wines tomorrow morning. And they made a selection from this 60 wine, out of 60, 15 wines. So they will explain the reasons why they like these wines too, and they will tell about the wines too. And at the moment, they don't know. They really don't know which wines they selected. And they will know with you together at the same time. They will talk about the wine first, and we will bring the bottle here. And after they comment, we will open the cover, and everyone, and they will see which wine it is. And the producers, some of them are here, some of them are outside. They may come and comment about the wine also, a couple of words. So I think it will be exciting and interesting tasting for all of us. So welcome again, and thank you for coming.
Welcome everyone, thank you, and I'm really happy to be here on the second sommelier selection. It's always quite nice to come and actually taste these wines together and also have a look what has changed, what's happening, and things like that. So for me it's a great pleasure to be here and to taste these wines. This morning we have tasted 59 wines, and majority of which were red. I think that kind of reflects the selection you have in front of you as well. There was one sweet wine right at the end, and the rest were mainly red wines, couple of rosés, etc. So it was an interesting selection. So we didn't really know what the wines were in terms of grape varieties. We had a large list of about 25, 30 grape varieties in front of us, saying, today you'll be tasting these varieties. So trying to get or understand what the grape variety is sometimes, I think, puts you to the wrong place.
Yeah.
So instead of trying to understand what the grape variety was, we were focusing on what we liked and why we liked, etc. So we just taste it as what it is, as how it tasted, rather than trying to identify them. And I think it's going to be interesting for us to see what we have selected as well. So I hope we will have a very good tasting this afternoon.
Yes. Good day and hello from me as well. My name is Frank Kemmer. I'm from Stuttgart, Germany. It's a great honor for me to be here and to taste the wines together with Master Isa. And what Isa just said is very important. You know, it's really a different approach whether you know the grape variety or not when you approach a wine. For instance, if you know the wine is a Sauvignon Blanc, you always will have that picture of a archetype Sauvignon Blanc in your mind, and you compare that with what is in the glass. But if you do not know what the grape variety is, you just judge the wine by what it is in the glass without any comparison. And that is very important, especially for the Turkish wines, and especially from my perspective as not being very familiar with Turkish wines. I think it's very interesting to see how these wines perform to an international palate such as mine without knowing the grape varieties, whether they are international or Turkish. For some of those wines, we are quite sure that we picked out the grape variety, which is on some of these wines very obvious, but on a couple of the other wines, I'm really curious to find out what it actually has. No? No, now it's here again. Thank you. Okay, let's use our time because we have 15 wines to taste together, and let's start with that white wine. It's the only white wine we have selected today. And the reason why we have selected it is a word that you're probably gonna hear from my mouth more often during this afternoon. And from my perspective, the most important character of this wine is balance. On the one hand, the balance in the flavor profile. You do have a lovely balance of ripe and fresh characters, but also in the balance of the structure. The wine has a lovely balanced structure, body against acidity, grip against alcohol, so it's really everything, it's in its place. And what is very important for me in this wine is that the use of wood was really very, very smart in this wine. There's just a touch of wood that you can smell in the first nose, but it's very nicely integrated. You know, I wrote down about that wine, it's very much like a modern style Chablis without the minerality of a Chablis, but stylistically it's very much like, you know, a modern Chablis, which is kind of weird for me because when I come to Turkey, I think of a hot climate country. And this wine rather tastes like a cool climate wine. So that was really surprising for me.
It's very hot climate outside today. I think my microphone is not working. And I haven't done anything to it, I promise. The interesting thing with this wine was it was quite balanced, and I mean, Frank pretty much has said anything I would say about it. It was clean, well made. It was balanced. For us, that was the key. The oak, the use of oak was very clever. At first, I thought it may not maybe have no oak in it as well. However, I want to ask also to Frank, if you are drinking this wine, what do you see yourself eating with it?
This is definitely a seafood wine. But not so much, you know, the fresh seafood, more, you know, fish from the oven, fried fish, pan-fried fish, things like that, with a touch of acidity to it, no creamy sauces. You see, that's the same dishes I would recommend with the Chablis.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, I don't know, maybe it's me. When I taste wine or drink wine, I immediately think about what would I eat with this wine. So it's... For me, it actually reminded me of straight away grilled sea bream, grilled sea bass, things like that. Just plain grilled, but it has to be a good one. You can't just have any old sea bream. It has to be a nice, fresh sea bream. You won't need anything else. Slice of lemon, this wine, grilled, that's it. Fantastic match.
But we need to be critical as well. There's also probably one weak point in that wine, and I wrote down, the finish is still a little bit harsh. There's still a little harsh edge to it in the finish. But there's certainly potential there for further development in the bottle. But at the moment, I like 90% of the wine, but the finish is yet to be developed.
Yes, if you remember, we did question the acidity there. We questioned whether there was any tartaric acid added to it. Adding acid to a wine is a common practice, especially in warm climates. So I wouldn't blame them if they added it. You know, if you sometimes need to add a little bit of acid, which tartaric acid is actually the acid of the grapes. So it's okay, but it shouldn't be done just as a textbook. It should be done if the wine needs it. I think we should see the wine. Who's going to open the wines? Selen.
Selen, service.
We need to see the wine. 14, yes. So anyone wants to sort of hold his or her hand up and say, I think this wine is that.
It is Lucien Arcas Bağları Consensus Chardonnay. 2015. Chardonnay.
Okay, we are on to the second wine, which is our first red wine. And I think, Frank, you probably liked it a bit more than I did. So maybe you want to explain your points first?
Well, I'll probably just read for you what I've written down. I said, deep and dense in the nose with a chocolatey dark cherry berry character, a very good wood, very good oak influence. On the palate, a nice good juiciness with an agreeable tannin quality and just a touch of bitterness to the end. There's power and potential. This wine is really on international standard without losing its personality, and this is something very important. You know, it's sometimes quite easy to produce a wine that's on an international standard. But if a wine from Turkey tastes like a wine from France or Italy or Napa Valley, so what's the point? I mean, probably we are happy that we can produce wines of that quality in Turkey as well, but at the end of the day it should taste like a Turkish wine, not like an Italian wine. So this wine is a nice example that you can produce international quality without losing your unique Turkish personality. So that was what I like very much for this wine, but I also wrote down I would love to see this wine in 3 years from now. It's not ready yet.
Actually, from my end, I did enjoy the wine, and my tasting note. Before I say that, I must tell you something. I generally don't like writing or reading tasting notes. So my tasting notes are usually very boring. And what I wrote was a little bit closed on the nose, very clean, well made, needing time to show its best. Palate is rich, clean, and has a good length. Quite a serious structure, definitely needs more time. So this was my tasting note. So we both enjoyed it. As for the grape variety, I have no idea.
Me neither.
Okay.
But I think it's a blend. With that balance, I think it's a blend, not a single grape variety.
Anyone wants to hazard a guess, you are more than welcome.
So,
Nobody wants
are we
to guess
ready?
it. What number is it?
For me it is 2. For you, 24. Okay.
Oh, 24, sorry.
This wine is from Doluca Winery, Tura Öküzgözü, 2015.
So if we have anyone from Doluca and would like to talk about the wine, please come and tell us about it. I have a microphone here you can just take.
Türkçe konuşabilirim herhalde herkese. Merhabalar öncelikle. Denizli bağlarımızın öküz gözünden yapıyoruz. %100 öküz gözü şu anda içtiğiniz. Sürriye tortuları üzerinde yaklaşık 6 ay boyunca dinlendiriliyor. 10 ila 15 gün arasında süren maserasyon süresi var şarap için. Ve ardından tortulardan ayırıp yaklaşık bir 6 ay daha %70 Fransız, %30 Amerikan meşe fıçılarda bekletiyoruz. Toplam 12 ay dinlenme sürecini geçiriyor. Tura öküz gözü. Yeterli mi? Daha detaya girmeme gerek yok herhalde. Tamam, teşekkür ediyorum. Afiyet olsun.
Biz teşekkür ederiz. If I want to add one more thing about this wine, I have tasted this vintage right from the first vintage, this wine. And I think, if I remember correctly, first vintage was 2009. And from that vintage on, they have been very consistent. And it seems like they have got a nice source of öküz gözü variety from Denizli, which is quite interesting. Okay, let's move on to next one. Unless someone has a question or wants to talk about this wine from the audience.
This wine is your favorite wine, 95 points.
I always like it. That was 2014. That was 2014, yeah.
The next one was actually one of my favorites. It was not as high on Isa's score, but it was really very high on my score. What I love about that wine, first in the nose you get those lovely floral elements to the fruit. You have a lot of that violets, which adds to the fruit. The fruit is very much on the dark cherry cassis sides, and then you have that lovely violet floral notes, which makes me initially think of a certain grape variety, and I'm quite sure that this grape variety is in this wine. And then it has that deep, rich flavor and texture, very delicious flavors, but you have that lovely fresh acidity that really lifts up the wine on the palate. Something that's very important, really to have a lively, fresh acidity, especially with powerful wines like that. I wrote down, this is really first-class winemaking. This is first-class winemaking. And in a blind tasting, I would have certainly guessed that this one is a Côte Rôtie from the Northern Rhone. Because this is so much the style of Shiraz that you find in the Northern Rhone, that floral, feminine style of Shiraz that you find in Côte Rôtie. So this is Côte Rôtie from Turkey, and I like that wine very much.
I wasn't sure if this wine had any oak. I don't think it had. Do you pick up any oak?
I think there is a touch of oak to it, but it's so nicely integrated in that floral fruit. So that's why I wrote down first-class winemaking.
And I think if there is oak, that's brilliant. I'm happy to be wrong on it, because I really would love to see a wine made that oak is so well integrated in the wine that I don't notice it. That would be awesome. So I really hope that I am wrong and there is some oak in this wine. And I did like the fruitiness of the wine. I did like the finish, everything, the structure. And I, of course, put a note saying excellent food wine. So it really needs food. It's not, at this stage, it's not a wine that you would want to drink on its own. I think you need food to go with this wine. And I just find that generally wine goes well with the food that it comes from, where the region is, where the wine is coming from. So it would be interesting to see what this one is, Taner.
Okay. So the third wine is Hançalar Öküz Gözü Syrah 2016. Hançalar, it's a new winery, I guess.
You should tell the region.
Yeah. It's from Denizli, Turkey. 2016 Öküz Gözü Syrah. From Denizli region. Number 3.
This is a new one for me. I don't think I have tasted this wine before. So it's a good find, really good find.
Also silver medal from International Wine Challenge, 91 points.
Okay.
Yeah.
Overall, there are, obviously, we tasted nearly 60 wines, and they were all very good wines. So, quite a lot of the wine scores, they were very close to one another. So we chose 15, but there were at least another 15. They were extremely close in points to these wines. So it shows you, I think, the winemaking quality is going up, which is quite encouraging.
There is no oak, by the way.
No oak.
Perfect.
Okay.
Good. When it comes to wine number 4, it's a nice counterpart to wine number 3, because wine number 3 definitely is a very modern, contemporary style of winemaking, while number 4 was more the traditional style, let's put it the old-fashioned style, but in a very positive way. So I thought this one is very deep and spicy in its flavor profile, very intense, berry compote, lots of spices, lovely rounded tannins, full-bodied, heavy-weighted, but not overloaded. Rather old-fashioned in style, but with a great complexity. Big wine with personality. Personality is something important with the wine, you know. When you drink a wine, you have to ask yourself, do you still remember that flavor profile the next day? Or will it be gone after a few minutes? And if you tasted wine, you probably will remember how it tasted even the next day, because it has a unique personality.
I did also enjoy the slight vegetal notes on the nose and the ripe fruit elements in it, red and black fruits, touch of charred dark aromas too. The palate was very well balanced. It was all in good structure. And I think we were pretty much on the agreement in terms of our scores on this wine as well. And anyone has any questions while we are doing it, please put your hand up and ask. Otherwise, we'll be just rumbling along and it will get too much. Taner, do you want to tell what it is? Or are you
Yes, let me tell you. It's from Diren Winery, Carmen Selection 2014. And let me check the wines. It is 40% öküz gözü, 30% Cabernet Sauvignon, 30% Syrah. Carmen Selection 2014 from Diren Winery, which is located in Tokat. 2014.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Number 4.
Is there any medical profession here, like doctors in the room? Okay, that's good. We are safe. No, because I asked this because the next wine is probably gonna cause a fight, and we might need some first aid and help. Okay. Well, no, we don't get it that far. We sort it out before the lawyer. That's fine. You can stay and enjoy the wine. So the next wine, I really like this wine, and I have to admit I have a bit of a soft spot for wines like this. So that's probably one of the reasons why I liked it. But the main reason I liked it, I had an idea what the grape variety was, and I do think that it's a very good expression of that variety. I didn't mind that it wasn't bursting with fruit on the palate, but I did like that sort of green leafiness. I did like that dark fruit in it without being too much, and the elegance of it. So it was one of my favorite wines of the day today.
Yeah. But you know, this is really a tricky thing, because we both think that this is probably a not so ripe Cabernet Sauvignon, or even more.
No,
it's Cabernet
I think
Franc.
it's Cabernet Franc.
Yeah. And it is very specific for Cabernet Franc and not so ripe Cabernet Sauvignon that you have that greenish bell pepper herbaceousness to it.
Oh, by the way, if this was in a Cabernet Sauvignon, then I would probably have some issues with it. So if this is a Cabernet Sauvignon, then I would have to maybe look at my notes.
But you see, that's the point. If you taste this wine as a Cabernet Franc, then you expect a lot of those greenish characters. If you do taste it as a Cabernet Sauvignon, you would say, no, too much green is not good. So I just tasted it as a wine. And we all agree we do have that greenish character in that wine. And what I would love to see is that there is a balancing character to it, something more fruity to balance that greenish character. Then it would be a really, really high quality fine wine. Isa sees that balance. I don't see that balance too much. I really miss a little bit of the fruit that can balance that greenish herbaceousness to the wine. What I liked about the wine, and there Isa is correct, is the freshness and the elegance of the wine. Again, this is really a lovely freshness, a good structure in the wine. But to me, it's a good wine, but not a great wine because it lacks that fruity element to balance the greenish characters.
I think also, this is the beauty of wine. When you are drinking a glass of whiskey, every glass of that whiskey will taste the same. And pretty much everyone will know what it tastes like. If you are drinking a glass of raki, you know exactly how it should taste, depending on the brand you are tasting. With wine, sometimes you cannot agree on merits of a certain wine, but it doesn't necessarily make it the best wine or the worst wine. It creates a conversation, which to me is a very important quality in any wine, that it creates conversation, it creates arguments and curiosity, which this wine has done all of it for me. So I'm happy with it. So what number are you opening now?
33.
We are opening number 5.
Yeah.
No, tell me our number.
Yeah, 33. Right?
Yeah, that's 33.
Yeah. Danke.
Çamlıca 2014 Cabernet Franc. From Trace.
I mean, and another discussion we had was that I suggested if we had this wine amongst the best Cabernet Francs from Loire, from Chinon or Bourgogne, you would struggle to pick it up as a one from outside. So it's made, and this region, interestingly, it has got an incredible day and night temperature difference. So it does reflect where it comes from very well. I think you should come and tell us a little bit about it.
Teşekkür ederim. Şarapla ilgili çok kısa bilgi vereceğim. Tek bağ şarabı, İstanbul eli, 380 metre rakım, Islanca Dağı'nın en zirve noktası, Maya Tepesi'nin hemen altı, güneyi ve Karadeniz'e olan mesafe sadece 35 kilometre. Karadeniz'in en soğuk suyunun olduğu bölge burası. Bilenler bilir, İğneada'nın suyundan bahsediyoruz. Buradaki deniz suyu sıcaklığı Rize ile 5 derece fark var. Rize'deki sıcaklık. Okay. Just I would like to say where the vineyard is located. It's a peculiar place because it is 35 kilometers from the coolest part of the Black Sea coast. I mean, the sea water is 5 degrees cooler than the east part of the Black Sea. This is the coolest sea water temperature in Black Sea. And the vineyard is located 35 kilometers from there. The highest peak of Stranja mountain, this is 1,000 meters, and it's just south of the mountain, 400 meters above the sea level. It's extremely cool place. Just to give you an idea how the place is cool, hanging time between mid-veraison and the harvest date was 21st of October, and it is only 13.5% alcohol, and a huge acidity, 6.5 grams. So to give you an idea, how cool the place is, 75 days hanging time. This is one of the longest hanging time for any Cabernet Franc vineyard in the world.
Danke. So you see, this is really a wine that reflects its own terroir. And this is something good. I mean,
No, but I I think that was definitely a wine created a lot of discussion between us, and I am sure if I ask the audience, we would have equally strong opinions from people either for it or against it. But it doesn't have to be either. You just like it for what it is, and that's it. We move on.
Okay, with the next wine, we come to a topic that we also have discussed quite a lot, and that's the use of oak in the red wines. With some wines, we really had a problem with slight over-oaking of the wines. Some wines have really been perfectly matured in wood. But with this wine, you can really see that there is quite a lot of new wood used in the vinification of that wine, but nevertheless it's already nicely integrated. You initially get more of the spicy wood in the nose than the fruits, but the fruit is behind that. On the palate you have a nice balance and especially a good complexity. That was really the first wine where I wrote especially down the word complexity, which is very important in a wine. Multi-layered flavors, very important, especially on the palate. But still it's dominated by the oak on the palate as well, which is kind of weird because if you look on the color is already developed of that wine. So on the one hand, the color is young, but the color is matured, but the wine is still kind of young. But it has finesse and potential. I wrote down this wine definitely needs to be decanted before serving or wait for another 2 years.
I think the subject of oak is quite a long discussion for sure. My feeling is that in this country, the vineyard wine growers, they have the chance to grow really high quality fruit. If they wanted to go totally organic, biodynamic, they have got the climate on their side. With good viticultural practices, they can pretty much turn most, if not all of the vineyards into organic within 2-3 years without any issue. However, unfortunately, you can grow very good high quality grapes in the vineyard, but it doesn't finish there. You can destroy a very good grape in the winery. And oak is often a problem because we rely on other countries to sell us their oak, and I have always argued that if you are buying oak from France, you are competing against some of the strongest wine producers in the world, like the Chateau Lafitte's, Latour's, Californian producers, top Italian, Spanish producers, Australian, they all buy oak from France. So I'm really sorry, but when it comes to selling their oak to a producer in Turkey, unless you have got very good connections, you are going to struggle even with paying the best money to get the best oak. They are not simply going to sell it to you. So sometimes it's actually prudent and clever just to say, you know what, I'll either use old oak to minimize the effect of it on my wine, or I won't use any oak. So if you are making a serious wine, you don't necessarily have to put it in new oak. Put it in 3-4 years old oak, but have a really elegant, good structured wine. That is my line with oak. But sometimes it works. Sometimes you do get a good oak. I'm not saying they all give you bad oak, but when they do, it can hurt you a lot.
So, Arda Winery, it is Reserve Merlot 2014, and here we can welcome the representative of
And
Arda Winery.
again, on this wine, I think both Frank and I almost had the same marks.
This is 2014 from a single vineyard in Edirne, 10 kilometers north of Edirne, close to the Bulgarian border, from a winery that's surrounding, from a vineyard that is surrounding our winery. 2014 was the wettest year in the last 10 years in our region, so we had to make quite a late harvest, around 3 weeks later. To the end of September. We did a cold maceration for 5 days and a total maceration of 5 weeks. Then we aged the wine, all of it, in most of them new French casks, French barrels.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So we go on to wine number 7, right? Yep. You know, another issue when we tasted the wines was, and this is something crucial in a country such as Turkey, to pick the grapes at the right point in time.
If anyone has a question, please feel free. We are not doing anything particular unless we have to empty the room.
Yeah.
We can
Yeah.
spend a few minutes if you want to, if anyone has a question. If not, then we'll just go and taste some wine.
Yes. Yes. Also, I forgot to mention. Just a second. You have papers like this, and did you fill them? Okay. These are important because these are your thoughts. Isa and Frank selected, and you selected more, and so these are the best of the best of the show. So it's important to get your ideas from you. Please give these to Ayça or to our members, and please write your names if possible, if you don't mind.
Yeah, he will do a little selection, one card, and that person is gonna get 2 Zalto Universal glass.
Yes. Okay.
Won't they?
Okay.
Won't they, Taner?
Yes, why not? Why not? And also, I want to remind that tonight we will have a dinner in Şans restaurant. If anyone interested, please make your name written in our reception desk so that you can attend. And if you have questions, please mention now. Let me give you the mic. Teşekkürler. Sağ ol. Tamam.
Aynı zamanda sorayım mı?
Buyurun. Lütfen. Buyurun.
Yani bu çok hoş bir organizasyon ve geçen sene de eşim ve ben katıldık. Bu kadar geniş bir seçkiyi burada tadımlamak çok hoş bir deneyim. Benim yıldızlaştığını düşündüğüm bazı şaraplar var ve burada görmediğime şaşırdım. Mesela onlarla ilgili neler düşündüklerini merak ediyorum.
Şöyle, hemen bir araya...
Vinayda mesela.
Evet. Hemen bir araya gireyim. Şimdi
Bu seçki nasıl
tamam. İlk başta anlattım ama o noktayı bir daha altını çizeyim. Tadımda 193 tane şarap var. We have 193 wines downstairs. But it doesn't mean that they are tasting all. They are tasting only the wines that are given from the wineries. So only there are 117 tane şarap tadıyorlar. Today they tasted the half of it. Tomorrow they'll taste the other half. So it may be the reason. It may be the reason the winery didn't show their wine as candidate, or they didn't taste. They will taste tomorrow. So who knows? Okay. Okay. Okay. Okay. Let me take the mic. Thank you. Buyurun.
Thank you very much for this beautiful organization. First of all, let me give you additional information about Antep. Just right now, there's 2 restaurants in Antep, not one. The one is Fishwahan, the other one is Bayat. So if you go to
Bravo.
Antep, you can 2 restaurants to eat wine and kebab. Let me ask you both, do you really think that Turkish wine producers has a potential to create a blockbuster wine in 25 or 50 years in Turkey that you can also serving your Michelin star restaurants, or also you can tell your friends that Turkish wines have made a blockbuster in Turkey?
Microphone.
I think there are already quite a lot of Turkish wines that are served in Michelin star restaurants. First of all,
I don't want to
um,
give a name, and it's easy for you to say one of the producers or one of the name of the brands.
no, I mean many actually. Kaira has wines in Michelin star restaurants. Sevilen has wines. Kavaklıdere has wines. Urla has wines. There are many. Pamukkale has wines. And the smaller producers, if they had the importers, they would, because the quality is there. In terms of blockbuster wines, I think there are some blockbuster wines already in Turkey, but they are from Turkey. And the understanding of the brand of the wine, Turkish wine, is not as strong as French or Italian ones, or Cabernet from California is. So it will take time, but it doesn't mean that there aren't blockbuster wines. I think there definitely is blockbuster wines in Turkey, but then it's a curious word, blockbusters. What one understands will be different from what the other one understands from the word. If you mean by that very rich, full-bodied, modern-style wines, yes, for sure there are plenty. If you mean that for me a blockbuster can also be an elegant wine with elegant structure, perfect balance, with aging ability. That's a blockbuster for me as well. So yeah, I think it's already being done. It's just matter of recognition and time that will get that recognition.
Okay, thank you very much. So.